overall economy can recover in the way that we want. And clearly that's proving a bit of a challenge at the moment. I mean, partly today, certainly like to hear from you as much as we can about some of the challenges you face, some of the issues that we perhaps need to focus on, and the kind of help that we can provide for each other. Certainly we're going to have the opportunity shortly to listen and hear from some of the people that actually made comments in the press releases that we launched this initiative with. But one of the key things is that there's no doubt in my mind, the one thing that's been coming through loud and clear in all the businesses that I've had discussions with, and particularly some of the surveys that we've seen, that leadership and management is quite key, and really particularly understanding the differences between strategic, tactical and operational management at this particular time, and knowing, as it were, which buttons we need to press and how we need to plan the future for our own businesses. Because regardless of any given situation, the way ahead over the next few months is going to be somewhat different to the position that we left in March this year. And all of us need to think about how we can adapt, how we can focus, and how we can see what is the right way ahead for us, and how we need to develop and change ourselves in order to meet those challenges. And so I very much hope that with collectively over the coming weeks and months, we can all work together to look at some of the issues, to look at some of the key aspects that are ongoing, to look at how we can generate that income and the footfall that we need for the retail, but for businesses, how can they generate the revenue that they so desperately need? I think that together, I'm sure that we can share knowledge and experience. We can look at how we can help each other, and look at various interventions that we can consider for ourselves as well as collectively. I mean, the one thing that I do know is that there's lots of challenges with messages coming from government and various government departments. You know, one's not quite sure about whether you should work in the office or whether you should work from home, and what kind of balance that is. People are not quite sure whether they should go on public transport or whether they shouldn't. And there's a lot of tensions that are ongoing, and there's clarity that's needed, and hopefully we can help ourselves to discuss and look at these things and provide some clarity about the way ahead, and the challenges that there are going to be as we bring people back from furlough into situations where nobody's been operating in the office, as opposed to where some people have and some haven't, and the kind of dynamics that is also going to create. So we really want to look at all those particular aspects and see how we can understand the challenges we've got, and what are the things that we ourselves can do to support each other and help each other to get ourselves back into the kind of situation that we all wish to be in, both individually and collectively. So I think that's enough from me by way of introduction. What I'd like to do is to perhaps hear from the kind of first four people that got involved with the initiative with us, and obviously supported it, to hear why they're involved with it. I don't know whether we could perhaps ask Vanessa, who unfortunately we can't see, but we can certainly hear. Vanessa Burkett from Catherine Jones Jewellers in Cambridge. I don't know whether you can take over from me now, Vanessa.
Oh, thank you, John, and great privilege to speak first here. I think that the opportunity of the kind of businesses that the Chamber represents working with each other is not only enormous, but also vital. My business is a retail jewellery business. My mother established it in 1963. So we're aiming to be here in 2023 to celebrate our 60th anniversary. One of the big impacts on the retail sector and indeed the hospitality sector is complete falling off a cliff of footfall, number one. And number two, the major chain restaurants and leisure facilities, leisure businesses and retail, high street retailers have closed or are closing. But whereas that means that footfall is a big challenge for us, what it does mean is it's a massive opportunity. So by working with each other, by using, as we were saying just before we all joined together, the opportunities of tech to promote what we do, to reach wider and to smarten our access. I mean, using the word smart in the sense of smart technology, to smarten our access to a wider population and a wider client base. I think this is a perfectly wonderful opportunity. I don't want to suggest that I'm hugely confident at this stage, nor would I like to suggest that I'm pessimistic. I think that from our perspective in Cambridge, with 1 million Chinese tourists not coming and students not coming back until October, it's very difficult for us to gauge what business is all about and what business can learn to rely on. I'm working on at least a 3-month minimum before I can read the situation in Cambridge properly. And perhaps Cambridge is a slightly unusual town in as much as it does have a huge tourist draw. But I think that in 3 months' time, going back to your point, John, about strategy, long-term, medium term, and so forth, I think I'm mapping out a strategy to 2023 till we celebrate our 60th anniversary. But between that, there will be steps along the way, and partnering with IT organizations, partnering with local businesses and promoting the benefit of coming to a particular area, whether it's Cambridge or different towns in the reach of the chambers, I think is a good opportunity. I'm not so sure how many people will feel downcast that they don't have a choice of 6 pasta restaurants to choose from. I think they will be encouraged and emboldened to see young people starting new businesses, particularly in the food area, which we've seen widely in Cambridge over the last few years, and passionately committed young people moving into retail and perhaps creating different styles of business where it's not just retail, but it's retail and a coffee bar, or I don't know. These are the things that we perhaps could develop in our communications with each other, different types of business to appeal to customers and so forth, because ultimately any business is going to work with a lot more customers than we currently might have. So this might be a slightly meandering intro, but I hope that that's perhaps 1 or 2 starting points that we can all think about. I think that one thing that we have found very useful, and this is not just in the context of COVID, and it's not done because it's useful. We, as John will know, as a business have chosen a particular charity to support. I'm sure that all of you get asked all the time to support this charity and the other and so forth. And I could see that there's a representative of each on the call, which I think is great. But we have a chosen charity that we support. And with a chosen charity, the inquiries from other charities diminish. And to be frank, we get an awful lot of calls, and I imagine others do too. But we support the Royal Anglian Regiment charity. They've fought in Bosnia and Afghanistan and are still in Iraq and in Mali and in Nigeria and all the rest of it. But let's not forget that they built the Nightingale hospitals, and they are managing COVID testing right now. So whilst we champion each other, we have found that championing a charity and we did support each with the support of Lily Bacon. Just wanted to mention that for the lady who's representing the each right now. But championing a charity is something that we might, as individual businesses, consider. Just my pitch on that. I don't know if that helps, John, and gives you a few points to start with.
No, that's fine, Vanessa. Thank you very much, and thank you for being with us. And,
I'm delighted. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. I don't know whether we can go to Catherine next. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Catherine, and
afternoon. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. Afternoon. Catherine from Pilotfish. Pilotfish is a local commercial finance company. We work with lots of local SMEs and also property developers. I guess something that is part of my role at Pilotfish that I think would be useful for all SMEs in the current climate is I head up engagement here. So one of my strategies prior to COVID was to engage with a referral network and to work really closely with local partnerships. So for us, that's our professional referrers. So we work with lots of solicitors, commercial agents, IFAs, and I've worked with them in joint marketing collaborations, and that can be in sort of advice articles, so starting to use blogs, it can be in joint videos, and it's really all about sharing our skills, our knowledge base, and working together. And I think the Chamber offers a brilliant platform for this, because we're all about local businesses coming together to network, getting to know our local businesses, knowing who we're working with. And pretty much 90% of all of our business at Pilotfish comes through referrals, word of mouth referrals. And that's because we work with our local network, we champion them, and then they in return champion us. So that's something I think is more prevalent now than ever it has been, and is definitely part of my strategy, moving the business forward out of these times. And something we're massively focusing on is, nurturing our relationships, working with each other, and championing each other where we can. And I guess for Vanessa, in terms of retail, it's looking for partners and businesses that complement your offering and how you can come together to spread your word, or maybe move into a digital space. If you're not having footfall, how can you use perhaps people on Instagram, for example, to influence your footfall, to bring a different audience that perhaps wasn't there before. Yeah. That would be where we are, I think, in terms of, and why we're really passionate about getting involved and championing local businesses, to recommend people locally and to build on what we're already doing.
So, I mean, obviously dealing with finance as you do, how are you finding providing finance for businesses, and particularly small businesses in particular?
We're busier than ever, which is good news, isn't it? So lots of inquiries. In terms of our business offering, the CBILS loans, actually, we took a massive hit with that, because where we would ordinarily come in with creative solutions where your high street bank may say no to something that's perhaps out of appetite for quite a rigid high street bank offering, the CBILS loans have stepped into our area, as it were. So that's actually not been brilliant for our business, because that's taken away business from us. But positively, on the property side of our offering, we're busier than ever. So we're doing okay. Richard, my MD, who's finance director, as well as John here, who's another finance director, we have been on the phones non-stop, and delighted just to help and to be an advice. We've offered advice free of charge, and steered clients and people we've worked with previously, and given them advice, where they can go for help, where they can access finance during these times.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna move on to Soraya if she's able to talk to us now.
Hi, John. Thank you. We're really pleased to be part of this initiative, and I think really it's not by accident that it's happening in Cambridgeshire, and I hope to see it rolling out across other areas. I'm not originally from here. I've been running a business here for 22 years, and one of the things I've noticed, having come here from a different area with a very different profile of business and a different nature of people, if you like, is that 22 years ago when I started out, there was such a body of support behind me, people who had nothing to gain from giving me free advice or guiding me through certain difficulties. And it's always been a part of our growth story that we're in an area that has embraced us. And so seeing this happen in this area, to me, it sort of fills me with a warmth at a time that's going to be difficult for all of us. I feel that every job that between us all, through this kind of peership support network, every job that we save or every new job that we create is going to make a difference to a family, and it will make a difference to a community. So I feel that potentially there's a lot that can be gained by us working together in a sort of push you, pull me mechanism. I don't really know what that's going to look like at the moment. For my business, we're an intelligent telemarketing company, and we've run campaigns for national organisations, corporates, but also local SMEs. For some of the people that come to us, the outsource model isn't right for them. They're not ready for it. But one of the things we've been able to do to support them is just give them a bit of guidance about where they can get a good database, what the different best practice methods might be with the database that they hold, how to kind of grasp the nettle and pick up the phone and speak to somebody and tell them why you're special and why you want to work with them. So, you know, I think moving forward, we're certainly really, really happy to help and support people in that endeavour. And, you know, I think what we've all discovered through this pandemic is that people need people, you know, we need to be there to support each other. And, you know, for me as a business developer, one thing that I keep saying to my clients is we're going to have to sell our way out of this situation, because for organisations that have lost 3 or 4 months of trading, they're really going to need to up their game. They're going to, you know, they're going to need to do things a little bit differently. And, you know, I've no doubt those that are quickest off the starting blocks will be, you know, those that manage to get through the painful learning curve that we're all going to have, you know, in the recovery phase.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very true. If before we have general discussion, Rupert, no means is the last one that I'm going to ask. If I can hand over to you for a few moments.
Lovely, absolutely. Thanks, John. So yeah, I think now more than ever, I think businesses need to support each other. The local business champion initiative from the Chamber of Commerce, obviously it's perfectly timed. It's well timed. We're yet to see the worst of this. I think the worst of it's ahead of us as the props get removed and as furlough starts to get dialed back. The worst is to come. So we do need to pull together now. Having provided IT support and technology services to hundreds of firms over the last 20 years, we're really looking forward to working with the Chamber, its members and the wider business community on this. Providing support is what we do. It's sort of in our company name. That's us. We provide support. We support the businesses the supply chain between the manufacturing raw materials at one end and retail and the people at the other end who buy the thing. So everyone at CTM is really, we're passionate about local businesses. Like you guys, we trade heavily on our reputation. We get a lot of referrals and repeat business. But I think CTM is not uniquely, but we're specially positioned to be able to provide, I suppose, advice, lowercase a, advice and support to other chamber members and local businesses, because we've been doing this for 20 years. We've worked with hundreds of different sectors and businesses, from charity and retail, shops and manufacturing, lawyers, accountants, garages, everything you can possibly imagine. And me having been at CTM since 2003, I've had the privilege of not only delivering the product that we now expert in, but also now being the trusted advisor. And so our customers come to me and say, what's everyone else doing? What are your other customers doing? I hear Zoom's a thing. This was the conversation as of March and April. I hear Zoom's a thing, but what about Teams and WhatsApp messaging and FaceTime and Google Meetup, and which one do we use? And Skype for Business, that's a thing, and so on and so forth. And so we've been saying, okay, well, some are using this and some are using that, and we can give this advice based on what our other clients are doing, what the other 100 businesses are doing that we support. And we can pass on the pain points, and we can talk about how other companies are hurting and how we can alleviate those pains through technology. And yes, sometimes you've got to put your hand in your pocket to pay for some of this tech, but sometimes you don't. And having a trusted advisor there who's going to say, well, actually just use Excel, it's going to do the job. We use it ourselves for that and it works fine. As well as somebody who says, you know, you need to spend some money on this. You need to get a proper app. You need to get some proper support, because that's what all these other businesses are doing. Your competitors are doing it like this. You know, you can use the free version if you like, or you can put your hand in your pocket and you can do it the way your competitors are doing. So to pick up on Catherine's point, she mentioned about trust, and I and CTM are trusted advisors to our customers at the moment and our customers in the past. If we can pass on some of that worldly advice, I'll keep to my lane. I'll keep to IT and tech. Although, you know, I am the managing director of a successful local business, but I can keep to my lane with the IT. So we're trusted advisors, and if we can pass some of that on to other businesses, and you know, you guys can put to me and to the other companies here who have stepped up to the plate to be the first local business champions. What do your other customers do? What are other people doing? How are you faring through this? We'll do our best to answer the questions, and hopefully we can come out of this stronger with products that, yeah, okay, may some products and services may not survive, but new products and services are going to come out of the ashes. And if we can help you pivot your businesses and your products and services to get through this, then that's what we're going to do.
I think you touched on a great point. Sorry, John, just to interrupt there again, which is that, you know, business disruption has been going on for a while, and actually the unintended consequences of COVID means that, you know, a lot of businesses are exploring new areas and new ways of going to market, and the outcome of that is it's been going a long time. I know previously I've spoken about the fact that Domino's Pizza is actually a software company. They're not a pizza company. The technology that they developed to produce their app on a phone is of more value than them producing pizzas. So, you know, that's the sort of level of disruption. I'm sure, Vanessa, you've seen it with e-commerce over the last 10 years, and the Amazons of these were, you know, popping up and next day deliveries. So I think retrospectively, it would be interesting to have this conversation in 2 to 3 years' time, John, and see what has come out of this that's actually been, you know, positive stories around how businesses have pivoted and how businesses have disrupted themselves effectively, right?
Yeah, no,
John,
yeah.
John, may I make a comment on that?
Of course you can.
Thank you, that's very kind. Apps are everywhere, that's for sure. What I was mentioning earlier on was the way that independent businesses can thrive with each other and being mutually supportive. The one thing that Amazon can't yet do, and I think it may be sometime coming, is to feel. And what I mean by that is that independent businesses which have been around for a long time, especially in the customer-facing sectors, all of them, have relationships. And relationships, with your relationships, you can thrive as a business. Just a very, very quick little story to just give you an example, if you don't mind indulging me for a sec. A woman came into the shop a couple of years back, clutching a ring in her hand. It was all that she had left of her husband, who had died a couple of months before. And with her ring and with a little diamond brooch that she had, we made her, which was a family heirloom, we made her a ring. I put it in a box, and when she came to collect it, she opened the box, and with her eyes wide open, she said, "Oh, that ring is my whole family." You cannot get that on Amazon. So the issue is, how do we transmit the intimacy that even a tech company can have, indeed a tech company must have with its clients, can be transformative about the way that company will grow and thrive. I know with a piece of jewelry, it can become self-evident, but I think it's something that we can exploit as a USP for independents and small businesses like the ones that we're trying to champion.
Can I just mention something? I think there's a thread between what you guys have just mentioned there about thinking of your businesses in a slightly different way, in that Vanessa, I think you could think of yourself as a jewelry shop, and you sell little bits of metal and gold for a price, and that's all good. Or you could think of yourself as a sort of seller of emotion, and you just happen to do that through jewelry. So CTM is a customer services company, and we just happen to do that through IT. And so thinking about how the difference between what it is you sell and what it is people buy is different. People buy jewelry, but you sell the emotional impact of that jewelry. And the businesses out there that can think like that, and they can change the way they sell, and they can understand what it is people are buying. People aren't buying from us a very, reboot a printer. They're buying the ability to remain productive, and they want us to be polite and nice and empathetic and so on and so forth when we're on the phone. A lot of the conversations my technicians have had over the last 6 months has been more about how you're getting on working from home, and how's your cat, and a shoulder to cry on, and don't worry, it'll be okay. And all of that stuff. Oh, and we just happen to fix your Outlook email signature problem as we pass. And so having an understanding about what it is you sell versus what it is people buy, if you can have that understanding and your competitors don't, that will put you ahead in a recession.
So just to add to that, Rupert, and I think you're entirely right, and Vanessa, this has always been part of your service and product offering to your customers, which is that, the tech sector, I've been in software a long time, and I'll tell you for a fact that about 5-6 years ago, software went from being a transactional model to being a relationship. And it's that simple, right? It's based on subscription. Our product is based on subscription. If I don't get you to value and give you a great experience, there are 50 other products you can replace me with. So I completely agree. And as a business model, as a startup 2-3 years ago, we said our local audience, we can influence our local audience, and we can influence our local audience with great service and with a reputation. What we can't do is compete with Silicon Valley-based companies that spend $50,000 a month on Google AdWords, right? We just couldn't compete with that. So I agree wholeheartedly. And it's about playing to your strengths, isn't it? It's about playing to the strengths that your competition cannot deliver against.
I think that, one of the real challenges we've got is now to do with footfall, particularly in cities and towns, and obviously in the information we've just got, it's only operating about 50%, and in some places it's 60 to 70% down. And one of the challenges we face is that these mixed messages we've had about telling people to stay at home, work at home, not go to the office, not to use public transport. And now people are concerned about their own safety, coming back into an environment where they do go into their offices, they do go into the town centres. And clearly a lot of work is being done, and it's really something that I think there needs to be a focus on. I haven't asked her, but I know Hayley Williams is on the call, and she's doing a lot of work in Huntingdonshire for developing strategies for the market towns, particularly looking at footfall. I don't know whether you can hear me, Hayley, and whether you've got any comments you'd like to make.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so here at Keystone, we're working with HDC on the Reopening Huntingdonshire campaign. And what I'll do is I'll share a link to the web pages here so that you can all have a look. So really interesting to hear what everyone's saying here, and to hear about the different sort of approaches that you're all taking, and how we can look to package that up as part of the local business champions, of which I'm proud to be part of as a chamber member as well. What we're doing for Huntingdon is we are helping them connect to the wider business community and all of the businesses to help them as they adapt their working environments and they reopen their doors. So one of the things that we have done with them is created a business restart toolkit, which helps businesses across the district access support and advice and guidance, both from a local perspective and from a national one as well. And I see that Ashley is on this Zoom call as well today, who's representing the Combined Authority, and they're involved in offering one-to-one business support, which we're promoting too. I think the challenge for all of us will be, right now we're in the thick of it, and for our businesses locally, the initial fallout is challenging, but it will continue to be challenging. And so with initiatives like this, our campaign with HDC is only running for so many weeks, but initiatives like this, need to run into the long-term future, because the impact of this situation is going to continue for some time. And so I think all of us here today to make that commitment would be a really good thing. So I'll put the web links on the chat so that you can all have a look, and encourage you to follow the campaign activity using the hashtag Reopening Huntingdonshire. So that's on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. I think.
John? Hi.
Hello, Jill.
Hi. In terms of footfall, I mean, having been a retailer myself, it is absolutely vital. And obviously we have the digital marketplace now. But for people like Catherine Jones, something like touching and feeling that jewellery is not the same as an online experience at all. But what is it possible, and I don't know the answer, is it possible to promote Cambridge across the country? Because a lot of the tourists we're getting to Cambridge now are coming from Liverpool and Manchester. They're coming from all over the country rather than China, but we're still getting tourists. Could we not promote Cambridge across the country in terms of tourist information, because we have an incredibly low rate of COVID?
It is, and it is also a challenge, because most of the tourist organisations are not being funded at the moment and are not really operating, and clearly partly is because it's been very limited, what they can do. Certainly I think that we need to look at how we can particularly get people back into all of our cities and market towns, and how we deal with that. I don't know better, who's actually gone into a supermarket or a shop wearing a mask so far?
I have.
Yeah.
I'm Vanessa, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I hope you're all ready for tomorrow anyway. And I understand today they've announced that you're going to have to wear them if you're going for your takeaway coffee or food now. They're obviously kind of increasing the need to wear masks in different situations. But some people have kind of got quite cozy being at home and working from home and not having to go into the centre and other things. I mean, one of the real things that's vexing me at the minute is in relation to events on Zoom and having physical events once we can get them back into play again, and people meeting up with each other. We're talking to as many people as we can. And I'd be very interested in the views from people with us today about are they looking forward to the opportunities that maybe that can be provided to actually physically meet people in a business development environment? Anybody got any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I for one am looking forward to it. I think people buy from people, and this is all very well and good, but it's a bit remote. And I am looking forward to it. And I think one of the powers of those face-to-face networking events, one of the major benefits that I and CTM get out of being members of the Chamber of Commerce, of the networking events, is being able to take my account managers, and from time to time my technical people, but certainly my account managers, out to the networking events, and it allows them to cut their teeth on talking about the product and seeing who's out there. And I actually had a conversation with Faye about this the other day. Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to getting back out there and getting my team back out there as well. And if you want to back me up on that, Faye, I'm pretty sure I didn't imagine that, did I?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're obviously wanting to be able to gear up physical events once it is permissible and safe to do so, which may well be after the 1st of October. It is something that we're very interested in as to the mix that we need to develop between obviously continuing to run some events online versus the physical events which people need to want to. I have to tell you, my construction sector desperately want to get their comedy night dinner in before the end of the year, despite the fact that it had to be cancelled in June. They said that it's the only laugh they have during the year and they don't want to miss it during 2020. So we'll have to see whether or not we're able to gear that up for them before the Christmas this year.
The way 2020 is going, it could be the only laugh any of us get.
Yeah, it might well be. Might well be. Yeah.
John, if I could just pick up, it's Vanessa here again. I think that a lot of people who've been locked down, certainly people who've been shielded, are frightened about going out. And I think their fear is exacerbated by the point that you quite correctly and quite properly made about the confusion in the government messaging. Should you wear a mask? Should you not wear a mask? Should you stay at home? Should you go to work? Should you be on a public transport? Oh, don't go on public transport. You've got to wear a mask. You know, it's all such a cacophony of confusion that it's making people who are already anxious really scared about going out. So we have to find a way as a community of businesses to communicate what we are doing to take care of them. We are following these guidelines. This is what we do. We do have masks. We will give you masks. Or if you haven't got a mask, you can buy a mask for us, make a contribution to our charity. But we have to get through this, as I say, the cacophony of confusion from the government about their messaging by being very clear about how safe we need to make our staff. And if we make our staff feel safe, and we communicate that to the customers, that we have that responsibility, that duty of care to our staff, we extend that to the customers that we're looking for. I don't know how we do that exactly. You talked about, John, about footfall. It's 70% off in my part of Cambridge, 70%. It's a lot. But our duty is to make sure that customers feel comfortable coming in. We give them masks, we give them sanitizers, we have a UVA lamp to zap things. We communicate to them the care that we need to take of everybody.
Well, for me, Vanessa, I think positivity and confidence. If we are all positive and confident, that will rub off. At CTM, we're COVID secure. We've got our risk assessment, which we publish, and we've got our certificate, and we've got sanitizer in every room, and that instills confidence in the staff and amongst our customer base that we've got it under control and we're cracking on business as usual, and we're here to provide the service that you're paying for. And I think if small businesses and the community generally are positive and confident, I think that can rub off. But yeah, I think there are some people who are, that's naturally not their stance, and will shy away.
Yeah,
I think we can do our part.
I don't know whether you're aware, Vanessa, but I understand that the City Council are going to significantly, they tell me, reduce parking charges very shortly in Cambridge. I'm not quite sure whether their definition of significant is the same as mine, but certainly I understand that is going to be the case, which is actually causing some angst between them and the bus companies, who believe this is actually going to, if it does make it easier for people to drive, it is going to continue to drive people away from the public transport and the viability of running the buses.
Yes, I think that is right, but I think that there's a collision in policy between different parties. That in Cambridge and certainly in other local towns, the idea is to try and stop cars coming into the town and try to get people onto public transport. That's been the movement in this area for 10 years or so, leading to the demolition of the Park Street car park. I mean, this is very local to some people who don't know Cambridge quite as intimately as I do after all these years. But if you take down a car park and then say people can't travel by bus, where are the people coming from?
No, it is, and these are, I think, particular issues that we all need to understand and look at. How we should take these issues forward to the key decision makers about how
yes,
we
that would be great.
What are the ingredients that we need to put forward to enable the economy to recover the way that we need it to, and I think it's very important. And I mean, I know car parking charges are actually being reintroduced in some locations now at a time when clearly footfall is down, and one should be looking at mechanisms to get people into the locations, not creating further additional charges for them, which might even put them off for a longer period. I do think that it's really important that collectively we do have a single message from business in relation to this that we take to our public sector colleagues to try and make sure that the kind of strategies they adopt are going to help to overcome the kind of challenges we've got with footfall at the moment.
I think the Chamber is ideally suited, ideally placed to champion that position, John, and I would applaud you for doing that.
No, so I think that's certainly one thing that I'm going to kind of take away from today. Talking about obviously like gearing back into running events and other things and doing. I don't know whether Tony Murgott, who runs an events company, and obviously he's intricately involved with perhaps talking to some of the venues and things. Tony, what's their view of the way ahead?
Hi, John. Yeah, I think with an event company, we've been speaking to a lot of the clients, a lot of the venues. There's not really an appetite until we get sort of towards September time to really discuss it and really think about it. We waited so long to get the announcement that we could actually commence from the 1st of October after watching everybody hit in the pubs and sitting very close and enjoying themselves. So yeah, and obviously with that, and then the school holidays in theory starting so this week, nobody's really thinking about corporate stuff now. A lot of people still on furlough. So yeah, there's no interest. But I would just sort of pick up on a couple of points. I think the tourism aspect is key of driving people into the cities, and I'm working on something that is going to hopefully help deliver something to help everybody. I think consumer confidence is going to be the key. So whether events do go ahead, it's whether people are willing to use the public transport, and our company's going to be able to make people go to a meeting or a networking event. So I think there's so many ifs and buts still, and I know sort of event companies are all looking at different ways of doing things. We are all zoomed out. I don't think it's going to last forever, thankfully. And it is, way back to the start of the conversation, it's all about the face-to-face and building those relationships.
Yeah, thanks. No, and we're obviously very keen to keep in dialogue with you, Tony, about the way ahead and the venues that are going to be able to facilitate some of these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite important. And I think the point's been made. It is really challenging because people are very reticent and some frightened about, as it were, coming out into a situation where clearly the consequences of catching COVID-19 can be pretty devastating for them and families. So, we have to be very conscious of it. And certainly my view in talking with the various health organisations, and the British Chambers had a meeting with Matt Hancock yesterday, is that they're not perceiving there would be any general lockdown. They certainly want to keep it very specific and local from lockdowns. But if one does get into that situation, our experience of talking to our colleagues in Leicester is indeed very challenging. Obviously, the key thing and the key objective we must all have is how do we generate back the confidence in people to return, and how do we generate the additional income that everybody needs in order to be able to sustain their businesses. And as we're going through a period of time, particularly when the government is going to start to withdraw some of the financial support, it's really going to make people sit and think. And in the survey we did only the week before, it's showing that actually 30% of companies are looking at making redundancies within the next 3 months on the basis that the revenue that they're going to be able to generate the next few months is not going to sustain the level of employees that they've previously had. So these things are challenging, and I think that it's a matter of how do we provide help for ourselves, how do we get ourselves geared up, and how do we find ways of thinking through and looking at it. I know we're going to provide some out, and I ought to perhaps bring Emerson Patton in, who's been working with us as a partner to run some events, and we've got some other events coming up within the chamber. Emerson, are you with us?
I'll unmute. There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing me in, John. Yeah, as you know, we've been running your coffee mornings, which we started right at the beginning, and the Safari networking with the chamber as well, so that you have the breakout rooms, and we even did it with a couple of mixing the chambers together and doing some bigger events. But what I've decided to do is my part towards this bigger picture. I'm running a masterclass series for the chambers. Actually, we've now got not only Cambridgeshire Chamber, but also Bedfordshire Chamber, Milton Keynes Chamber, and Northampton's Chamber, and Opportunity Peterborough involved in the masterclass series that I would normally charge. So I normally charge £295 a person to come on this course. We're giving it free to anyone who's a member of the chambers or Opportunity Peterborough. And the events themselves are launching with a bit of a taster session really on the 9th of September. And then on the 30th of September, we've got the first masterclass, which will actually be with myself and also Brian Jones, who's the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce for Cambridgeshire, and he will be talking on leadership. So I've also got a couple of other expert speakers that will be coming in to add value to that particular event. And then we're going to do one a month, except December. We'll be running one a month. And Rupert, I think, has agreed to be doing the operational IT one. Yep. And I'm pretty sure I'm having a word with Ollie about joining us on the digital marketing one. And there's a number of people probably in this room that may well be able to add value to the sessions that we're doing. And I've put it in the chat. But it is it's the brightbusinessmasterclass.com if anybody wants to register themselves, either for the free, I'm calling it Back to Business webinar on the 9th of September, just like everyone's going back to school. We're getting back to business, so there's going to be a back to business one, which is going to cover in brief leadership, cash flow, and marketing in terms of the message you need to put out there right now, both internally for your staff and externally. And then we're going to deep dive into each of the sections of my model that we use there. There we go. And we're going to do leadership management. We're going to do a following one on finance. So we've got Safri Champions is going to be one of our partners on that. And then we've got operations, which Rupert will be part of that one, talking about people how they use technology. Then we've got one on HR, and we've got a number of speakers involved in each of these sections. And then we go on to marketing and sales. So all of these are going to add together to give you a full deep dive education and try and all pull together. And it's what I've been doing for 15 years. And I'm pleased to say I've just received this today. So I am now a finalist for the National SME Awards for Business of the Year and also for Business Person of the Year. So we shall see how we fare in the nationals. I've been in the regionals before, but I've made it through to the nationals. So the advice is award-winning, hopefully, people. So you get to find out what that's all about. But if you want to come along, the more people we can get involved, the more ideas we can share. We know you've all got backgrounds of running businesses, knowledge you've picked up from corporate life, whatever. This is like channeling all the advice and education into something. So I'm happy to be supporting the Chamber as I've done as one of the champions.
Thanks, and obviously we're going to be making sure that we provide all the information that you need in order to be able to book on and do that. And it's great to be working in partnership because I think the partnerships are the real kind of way that we've all got to work together to kind of support and help each other. And it's great that Emerson is helping us with these masterclasses in this way, work with the other chambers and Opportunity Peterborough in particular to clearly give the practical help and advice that many people feel the necessity for at the moment. And we will be looking at a number of other kind of initiatives that we want to obviously get involved with. I think one of the key things as well, and I'll be dropping everybody a note, but what we'd like all of you to do is to see if you can promote through your channels, getting other individuals and businesses to join as local business champions so that we can get the breadth and depth, and particularly when we're looking at particular issues and we want to take them forward to the powers that be, so to speak, it is always good to have a significant number of supporters that you can obviously make sure that we have supporting the recommendations we might make. And I think the key thing is we want to know from you what they should be, because we are absolutely certain that it's people on the ground who are facing the day-to-day challenges, will continue to face the day-to-day challenges, that, let us know the things that there is mixed messages on, and what do we need to do to really help and guide that. I'm currently working with the Combined Authority under the Mayoral Forum on an economic and business recovery group, and we are looking at bringing forward a number of key interventions that we need for our area. And certainly I've challenged them to look at prioritising those and at least having them listed in the kind of top 5 or top 10, or the trouble is if we're not careful, the local authorities like to go to top 25, but I'm trying to get them to do a top 5. It may be top 10, but these are things which will coming out in the next couple of weeks, and which I'd like to share with all of you and get your views on, to see if there's input that we can get from all of you going forward to make sure that we get the kind of investment that they're going to make from this plan into our area is absolutely the right investment to meet the kind of objectives that we feel that we've got to meet. So I'll make sure that we share all of that information. I've got quite a lot of work to do at the weekend because I've got to give them my response by Monday at the latest, and I haven't managed to do it yet. So that'll keep me active and busy over the next few days. But it's really important that we do spend the time looking at it, because we've only got one chance to ensure that we are kind of providing the business steer for the right interventions that are necessary at this time. Are there any questions that anybody's got? Ollie, if you want to kind of see if you can get somebody to make any comments about the challenges or situations they face, or things that we should certainly know about.
I think going back to the original point, it's learning about other sectors. It's very easy to see things from my own perspective, right, to do with software and IT, but when you start to look outside of that, it's being mindful and empathetic of others, and also being able to apply some advice, some of the learning that you've done over the years to that particular sector, and being able to help. So we've heard from retail today, we've heard from IT, obviously, we've heard from finance as well. So is there anybody else that would like to just sort of talk through some of the challenges they've got?
Jackie?
I'm trying to unmute. Am I there now? Yes, I just wonder, as a business community, we seem to have lost and maybe continue to lose a huge group of the population, and I'm not sure how much income we generated from the elderly, who are now the most vulnerable and who are now shielding, and they've been shielding, will be shielding for a long time, and what they've been spending in the past that supported our businesses. What are we doing as a business community to actually get that spending back from them? I don't know if I can pose that to someone.
Yeah, that's a great point. So for anybody that doesn't know, and this is a shameless plug, but they're a fantastic charity. We work very closely with an organisation called Aged Care Advice, and they're responsible for people that suffer from dementia, et cetera, and they go into their houses, that, you know, they'll buy their milk, they'll make sure the cat's fed, that level of care and cover. And throughout this period, they've been unbelievably stretched on exactly the point that you're touching on there, which is that, you know, previously they could go out. If you suffered from dementia, you could go out on a guided visit, you know, to the shops, et cetera, but now, since isolation, have been very much locked down. Two things I'll add to that. Number one is, if you know somebody in that scenario, reach out to them, like 100%, just for a 5-minute conversation, because, you know, that often makes people's days. But the other piece is, you're right, how do you solve that challenge of getting people back out? And I think that, you know, everybody's sort of waiting to watch what happens first, right? John, I'm sure you know the conversations you've had at a government level is exactly that. You know, there's talk of a second spike. Is it going to happen? Are masks going to prevent it? You know, science has never been a single trajectory. It's always been a pivot, right? It's a learning and a pivot, a learn and a pivot. It's never been a, right, we know what to do from the outset. And so people think that, you know, the messaging coming out of the government is very erratic, and I can totally appreciate that. But science is also very erratic. Science isn't a very logical thing. And so the outcome there is there's going to be this period of flux, and you know, the elderly are affected by it, 100%. But as a community, if you're able to go out and help them with their shopping, if you're able to go and plug some of the gaps for them, then all of a sudden, you know, that impacts the community again, but also means that their standard of life is where it should be as well.
But we're also missing out in what they would spend, in the income that will come out of them being out and spending. I think that's the point that I was trying to make. And what are we, as businesses, what are we doing to try and get that spending, to include them in the group is in coming out and spending and contributing to the economy. So
I think you could almost take a look at what the supermarkets did in response to that, and they gave the morning slot, the early morning slot. So perhaps if you're a retail business, you could take and perhaps offer one-to-one appointments, because it's crowds and it's volume of people that are making people nervous. So adapt your offering, your approach, maybe an appointment basis might help.
Good.
I suppose the business centers could do the same, adopt the same approach, and sort of have time.
Good. I think that, yeah, I think on the health thing, and particularly if we do see pockets and other things, what I might try and do is get the Director of Public Health for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough to come and chat to us and talk to us about what they're doing, because they meet on a daily basis, and there's a lot going on in respect of that, and you know, it's all about getting the confidence back. So if we find that you're interested in having a chat with them, then I'm sure we can arrange that to look and understand the challenges that they're facing and what they're doing and how they're monitoring and controlling all that is going on. But I very much regret we've kind of come to the end of our time together, and I, for one, like to make sure that we do finish when we say we're going to finish, because everybody has probably got their tea boiling and kettle boiling and everything ready, probably ready to obviously move on. But thank you very much for being with us and being part of this new initiative, which we feel is very key to get businesses working collectively together to support, help each other, and particularly understand how we can also drive the economy and identify any barriers that are there, and see how we can find ways of making sure that they are dealt with effectively. So thanks very much for that, and we'll be in contact with you all, and we will also ask you to see if you can get other connections that you've got involved with us for our Championing Business program. Ollie, anything you want to deal with?
Yeah, just to add, thank you very much. There's also a LinkedIn post that I put out today, so if you wouldn't mind sharing that and just wrap round, you know, applications or on the Chamber website, as I'm sure you already know, that would be fantastic, because I think the more businesses we can get representing across all those different sectors, then the better idea of all the challenges we can understand that each other's facing. I know, John, you've probably got the biggest amount of knowledge across all of those tucked away inside your head at the moment, so it'd be great if we could hear some other people help bubble up some of those pearls.
Yeah, it's making sure I can find them that's the key, Alan. But nevertheless, a big thank you to the supporters that came to talk to us and were obviously making comments in our press releases. We do appreciate it. It is something where I really believe, and I've got a passion about the fact that we all need to work together collectively to face the challenges that undoubtedly are going to be quite difficult for some over the coming months. And we do really need to help each other. We need to understand what we can do. And they always say, don't they, that, you know, problem share is a problem halved. And, you know, so many of our small businesses, you know, are on their own, and they don't necessarily know where to turn to or who to speak with. I don't know whether you know the statistics, and I don't want to prolong it, but, you know, 97% of the businesses in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough are less than 50 employees, and 84% are less than 10 employees. And so we have a vast array of businesses that very much often feel that they are on their own and not quite sure how they can connect or who they can turn to and where they can get help from. And that's, I hope, something that we can make sure that we can provide. And we'll perhaps be asking some of you to kind of work with us to help others who would like particular ideas coming through from independent thinking. So thanks a lot. Sorry that we've overrun slightly, and we will be back in a fortnight's time. We'll be letting you all know what we'll be doing on that occasion.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you, John.
Thanks. Thank you all. Thank you all. Safe journeys home.
Thanks, folks.
Bye-bye.